Hi, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. My name's Jon Zaghloul. Great to have you here on Channel 59.3 BPOD TV and Roku. Some big news. The Bears are going to be the worst team in football, per Louis Riddick. Is that true? We'll explain in just a second. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. You can watch more of this show. Search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube or go to sportstalkchicago.com. You can watch more shows from the VPOD TV network. Search up VPOD TV on YouTube. I want to start today with this. Do you care who the worst team in football is going to be? Realistically, do you? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me who the 27th, 28th, 30th best team in football is going to be. I care about winning. I care about winners. I care about who's going to be in the top 5, top 10, who's going to make the playoffs, not who's going to be the worst. Who sits there and actually counts down and thinks, I wonder what the lowest 5 teams are going to do. Wonder where they're going to stand. Wonder who they're going to be. At the end of the day, any team within that category is a loser. They have serious issues. They need to be worked out. Don't give them the time of day. Don't give them attention when they suck. I never understood the concept of, let's talk about the worst team in the NFL. Let's talk about who's going to be the worst. The worst? How about we talk about the best? How about we talk about top 5, top 10? How about we talk about teams who actually succeed and not the bottom dwellers? I never, ever understood that concept. Maybe it's for money, maybe it's for entertainment, maybe it gets people talking, like I am right now, but regardless, it's stupid. You'll never hear me on this channel, on this program, talk about who are the worst teams in football going to be. It doesn't matter. Don't give them any sort of respect. They all have issues. I'm not going to sit here, talk about the Bears or the Lions and in-depthly explain why they are the worst team in football. It doesn't matter. They suck. There are issues on these teams that have to be worked out. Don't give them publicity. That was just my opening part of the rant. I'm serious, though. It makes no sense. Maybe it works for entertainment purposes, but I don't find it entertaining. I find it stupid and dumb and actually a bit lazy. Is it really that slow of a news week? You have nothing else to talk about but the 5 worst teams in football. Who are they going to be? Be better. Not a surprise, it's ESPN coming out with this. Louis Riddick on ESPN said the Bears would be the, quote, worst team in football. That also Justin Fields would have an ugly year. We'll talk about that in a second. That could be believable based on the circumstances. But what's the point in saying that? You really think, out of all teams in football, the Bears are going to have the worst season? They're the worst team. Really? So they're going to be worse than Detroit, worse than Jacksonville with a brand new head coach and no direction whatsoever? They're going to be worse than those 2 teams guaranteed. What about the Browns? What if Deshaun Watson doesn't play? It's going to be Jacoby Brissett and potentially Baker Mayfield and a hodgepodge roster. But no, they're going to be way better, leaps and bounds better than the Bears. I mean, are you kidding me? Why do you have to say they're going to be the worst team in football? Critics said the Bears will be the worst team in the NFL this season, adding to what ESPN's Football Power Index predicted. Okay. Football Power Index, what the hell is that, first of all? The Bears have a favorable schedule, and they have an opportunity to win 7 or 8 games if they play their cards right. That, to me, does not sound like worst team in the NFL. What about the Texans? Hello. How do you know Davis Mills will do good in year 2? They have a new coach, Lovie Smith, and their roster is horrible. How are they going to do good? How do you know? What makes you so confident that the Bears will be even worse than Houston or Jacksonville or Detroit or Cleveland? Seattle, too. Seattle's starting quarterback is Drew Lock. Get that through your head. Drew Lock is their starting quarterback as of today. So is Drew Lock going to lead Seattle to a 8-9 record even? No, of course not. But yet, no, the Bears will be the worst team in football. Book it today. This was obviously said to get the Bears community riled up. To get people like me mad, other people. It's just a flat-out lie. And I'm not even praising the Bears for what they did. I'm a critic of the Bears. You all know that. But to sit here and suggest they're going to be the worst team by far in football, then you don't know football enough, or you don't pay attention to other teams around the game, or you're trying to get clicks. Maybe that's what really was at fault here and what was happening. Because Louis Riddick is a smart guy. Why he thinks the Bears are going to be the worst team in football is just beyond me. I know this team. I know they're not the worst team in football. They suck, don't get me wrong, but they're not the worst. They're not horrible. There are teams in worse situations than the Bears, and there are teams that will perform worse, guaranteed, than the Bears. Guaranteed, the Lions will be worse. Yes. Guaranteed, Jacksonville will be worse. Guaranteed, Seattle will be worse. Those are guarantees. Cleveland could be, depending on their quarterback situation. There are other teams as well. So before we sit here and say the Bears are going to be the worst team in football, let's back that statement up a bit. This is why at times I hate national media. There's no need to say this. And the fact that you're saying this in the middle of June shows me you got nothing to talk about. Slow news week, nothing to say, so we'll put out a ridiculous statement like this to get clicks and get people enraged and cause more people to watch the show. Guess it's the nature of the business. It is entertainment. I understand that part of it. But these are ludicrous statements. And true fans and true people who have a brain know it doesn't make any sense to say this. You guys are smart. Fans are smart. And they know not to even worry about statements like these. That's why a lot of people don't watch ESPN anymore. No one wants to hear this BS all day long. On First Take or any of their other shows. Nobody cares. No one wants to hear it. It's nonstop arguing about things that don't even matter. Nobody gets into the weeds and actually analyzes situations or simply tells the truth. All these shows are scripted. And Louis Riddick's comment was either scripted or was done for clicks. Either way, it's wrong. It's wrong to do stuff like that, but it's wrong logistically. It's just a wrong statement. The Bears are not going to be the worst team in football. No sense. What about the Jets? How about the Jets? They're going to be worse than the Jets? Come on, Giants. Daniel Jones is starting. Do you know your 32 NFL teams? Do you know every team that plays in football? Obviously not. Louis Riddick might be forgetting about the 5 or 6 teams I mentioned who will be worse than the Bears. Guaranteed. There's no question on that. If the Jets do better than the Bears, I'm going to be colossally shocked. Super shocked. It's not going to happen. I know he said that Justin Fields could be suffering. I understand where that comes from. The Bears have not done enough wide receiver-wise to help out Fields. They have a brand new offensive line. They need guys to get some reps. I get it could be an ugly year for Fields. Maybe, I would hope it is better than last year. We see some improvement. That way we know that Justin Fields is capable of being a good NFL quarterback. That's not my issue. The issue is saying the Bears are going to be the worst team in football in June during a slow news week to generate clicks when you know there are 5 or 6 teams who will guaranteed be worse than the Bears. Guaranteed. This is my problem with this whole situation. The Justin Fields stuff, I can understand where that comes from. I get it. I understand. I may not agree with it fully, but I get where it's coming from, and I would expect, to an extent, to see maybe it being a tougher season for Fields. I get that. I could see it. That's not my issue. At all. I don't see that being a problem, but to say they're going to be the worst in football, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up. The Bears have at least a better offensive line. Their defense is getting better. Justin Fields has shown improvement already in practice. It won't be a 3-13, 3-14 season. They'll probably win at minimum 5 or 6 games. Maximum, I could see 10 based on the schedule. Schedule's weaker. I could see it. Anywhere from 5 to 10 games they'll win. That is not the worst in the NFL. So by just that reason alone, it's a false statement to make. And I like Louis Riddick, but this was just dead wrong. Sometimes you're dead wrong. I've been dead wrong. He's dead wrong right now. There's just no way it's going to happen. Will Justin Fields have a top year? Absolutely. Absolutely. New offense, second year, no more Matt Nagy screwing him, but a new offense he has to learn. Darnell Mooney's his only real wide receiver, maybe Byron Pringle, maybe Bellis Jones Jr. We don't know what their role will be offensively. David Montgomery's entering a contract year. You have a new O-line you have to get used to. Yes, it might be a tougher year for Fields, and he has to grow as a player. Cut down on the turnovers, the fumbles especially, interceptions, be more accurate. All these things we're going to be asking of him, and we hope that he can deliver 100%. But the Bears will not be the worst team in football. They won't. That's just a statement for clicks, and I guess it worked because I'm sitting here making a video about it, but I just find it so absurd to even make that claim. How do you know? And again, back to my original point in the open, why does it matter? Why do we have an infatuation with who the worst team is going to be? Who cares? Be better. Let's talk about the top 10. Let's talk about the top 5, top 2. Why are we talking about who are the bottom 5 going to be? Who cares? That means they suck. I never, ever understood discussions and sports shows about who the worst team will be. Does it matter? Who cares? That means they're horrible. That means they shouldn't even get publicity. Or if they do get publicity, it better be for firing their head coach or GM or selling the team, whatever it might be, along those lines. Now, do I think these are going to be the 5 worst teams? Let's break down the list. Let's rank them from 5 to 1. Who's going to have the worst record? Who's going to throw the most interceptions? Who the hell cares? How about we talk about wins? Let's talk about numbers. Let's talk about passing yards and touchdowns and best teams and Super Bowl winners. Not who's going to get the number 1 pick next year. I don't care. And if it's the Bears, so be it. If the Bears are going to be the worst team in football this year, so be it. But you don't have to sit here and talk about it like that. There's no need. It's a lazy segment that they fit in this week because there's no NFL news. This is downtime for NFL football, understandably. Won't ramp up again till August. You got 2 months of complete downtime, and nobody wants to talk about baseball or basketball or the NHL. So instead, people regurgitate the same football headlines and put them out and say, oh, here's something good. Here's something that'll get clicks. Who cares? Let's be real here. I would never make a bottom 5 list and put it out there or say this team's going to be the worst and here's why. Does it matter? And does anybody care? And is that a productive conversation to have? No. You don't need me to tell you why the Bears suck all the time. You don't need me to tell you why, oh, they're going to be the worst team, or Detroit's going to be the worst team. Here's why. Who cares? How about we talk about logistics and who's going to be the best team? Let's talk about fundamentals. Let's talk about why they're going to be good, what they need to succeed. Now, if they're just going to suck, they're going to be horrible, they're the worst team in football, book it. What a great prediction. Wow, good job. Round of applause. Who cares? Maybe this is for prognostication purposes, but I don't find that impressive. I don't find that amazing. Wow, what a great mind. He knows who the worst team's going to be. It doesn't matter. And you're not a prognosticator if you think the Bears are going to be the worst and it turns out to be that way. No, that's an easy and lazy prediction to make. How about you give some substance? How about, yeah, Justin Fields might have a tough year, but the Bears will be 28th, 27th. Here's my 1 through 32. That's fine, but not, oh, they're just going to be the worst, and we'll leave it at that. Let's move on. This was done to generate clicks, to generate outrage, which I guess it worked. But if you want real analysis, don't listen to segments like these, because they're not going to help anybody. It just adds more flames to the fire, and it doesn't provide any analysis whatsoever. It's just a take. And I give takes all the time, but that's purely a take, with no background, no evidence, no circumstances, nothing. Just a take. The Bears are going to be the worst. Okay, on to the next segment. Here we go. What does that offer? What does that contribute to the conversation? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's a word of warning to you. When you look for your football news, your Bears news, or any news, don't just look for takes to get you riled up. Look for analysis. Look for truth. Hard to find these days, but look for truth. Not just, here we go, and I'm mad, and here's a good take. What about the analysis part? What about the in-depth opinion part? Not just, yeah, it's a 5-word sentence, and we're going to move on. Or here's a good soundbite, and we're going to move on. That's done to generate clicks. It's not done to give you real, true, in-depth analysis. And that's why this statement from Louis Riddick is a problem, and why I don't care for it at all. Thanks for watching today's show here on BPOD TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you could follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. You can watch more of this show. Search up Sports Talk Chicago, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, sportstalkchicago.com, and tune in right here every night at 10:30 on BPOD TV. So long, everyone.